billions of in the universe of billions of galaxies, our galaxy has billions of planets for sure. But guess what? We don't have billions of options for planet hopping. We just have one Earth, only one Earth. Let's take care of it. Hello, everyone. On the eve of World Environment Day, I, Smriti Shweta Samantrai, climate reality leader from the Climate Project Foundation, welcome you to a special webinar on reduce carbon footprint, increase handprint. This webinar is organized by ECDF, Early Childhood Development Forum in association with MSME Government of India. ECDF is set up with a vision to bring all preschools, NGOs, parents, educators, balwaris, anganwadis, corporates, media houses, and other stakeholders to catalyze a positive change in the life of children in their early childhood years. Today, we have with us eminent speakers who come from the domain of education with thick lines of experience and knowledge. To start with, we have with us Susan Thomas, former head of the Foundation School, New Delhi, who has also been the British Council School Ambassador. She is also a climate reality mentor. We are fortunate enough to have Amy Bivin in this panel. She has joined all the way from Italy. Amy is the ambassador for Climate Action Project, Italy. She is also an elementary educator and coordinator of Marymount School. We also have with us another educator from Italy, Lydia Tavani. She is an anthropologist, pedagogist, and a tutor for outdoor education. The fourth speaker in this panel discussion is Ashim Berry from India. He is an environmental educator. He is also a facilitator of forest bathing, walks, and excursions for citizens of Delhi. During this session, we are going to talk about carbon footprint and how schools and educators can contribute effectively to reduce the same. So as the temperatures are soaring across the globe in an alarming way, adding to global warming, hence I give all of you a very warm welcome to this panel discussion. Welcome, everyone. So I think we can start the session with a common question which has been hovering in everyone's mind. So what is carbon footprint? And in what ways the schools should ideally be measuring their carbon footprint in the campuses or outside the campuses, whichever perspective you want to throw in, we are welcome to that. Let me start with Ms. Susan. So Susan, ma'am, if you would like to explain the same.
Yeah, thank you. Very happy and honored to be on this forum. This year's World Environment Day theme, Only One Earth, calls for a collective and transformative action to celebrate, protect, and restore our only living space. And the only way, according to me, to do this is by reducing your carbon footprint and moving towards a zero waste lifestyle. So what is a carbon footprint? A carbon footprint is a measure of the carbon dioxide that you produce along with the other GHGs, but mainly carbon dioxide that you produce and you put it into the atmosphere. Now it relates to our daily lives during which we produce through burning of fossil fuels for electricity, heating, the waste that we produce, the food that we eat, all of them have a carbon footprint. All of them in one way or the other is releasing carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. And so a measure of that is what is referred to as a carbon footprint. Now, what can schools ideally do to measure? I think schools must move towards a green campus and must have a green policy in place so that sustainable habits are inculcated in children right from the beginning. And to measure the carbon footprint, it would be a good idea to have the children do audits on water, air, biodiversity, waste, so that this will help the school then, along with the teachers, the entire school community, to come up with solutions and do a roadmap on how they can cut down on their carbon emissions. and thus bringing down the carbon footprint.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So I would like to move on to Lydia Tavani, ma'am. So if you can throw in your perspectives on this. Yes, we would like to know about that.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for inviting me. I'm so glad to be here with all of these interesting people. So thank you very much. What I can say, I don't want to repeat what Susan already said. It was really interesting. Thank you, Susan. I just can add that carbon footprint basically say how much we make our planet warmer. So that's why it's so important to know. And especially for the schools, because at school, the new generation learn about the natural environment, learn all the problems that we have today with the environment. And therefore, at school, the same new generation think about what we can do in our everyday life to take care of our planet, reducing pollution and all the carbon dioxide emissions. So I think that each school should know its carbon footprint. But there is a but. I have to be honest. It's not very easy to calculate exactly the carbon footprint. Well, it's not very easy for me that I'm an educator. I'm not a scientist. So it's important to underline this because you need to consider many factors. So the competition for me, it's a little bit hard. I think that I don't have all the right skills to elaborate this kind of competition. I need help. So what I'm saying is that we need help. Schools, I think that the schools need to collaborate with the other specialists. Sorry for my English. I don't know. It's not very good. I know a lot of mistakes. So sorry for that. I'll try to do my best. So
No, we are absolutely fine with this. We do get what you are trying to say. Yeah.
what I was saying is that carbon footprint is not the solution. I think that we can look at carbon footprint as a project. So what we need is to make a network. Maybe try to work in a government project. So in a kind of network where different specialists can collaborate together. So that's my consideration. Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, like you have highlighted that there is a dire need of uh, like relevant skills and the collaboration definitely to measure carbon footprints. I think that's a star marked point here. So now moving on to Ashim. So Ashim, if you could throw some light on your understanding and your idea of how do we get to measure them in schools and what is carbon footprint in general, if you would like to enlighten our audiences.
Thank you so much, Smriti, and thank you ECDF for having me on board. It's an honor to be here, of course, with some people who I know and some people who I'm getting to know through this panel, and just to be here as a panelist and talk about my experience as well. I think we've already touched up a lot about what exactly carbon footprint is, so not to get so much into that. But however, just wanted to point out also, as Susan ma'am was mentioning, that it's also measured across different domains. So we did like the organization I was working with previously, we had done a study last year, which Susan ma'am was also a part of, which sort of looked at the science behind it as well, and so the calculation process, and we worked with experts to sort of understand that across different domains, whether it's food or it's mobility and transport or it's goods and services or it's leisurely activities, what is the actual footprint per individual in a country. So in India, we were actually able to list down a series of activities, a series of low carbon lifestyle measures that one individual can implement in their respective lives to make a change. So they actually see the transition, the transformation of taking up certain forms of low carbon lifestyles to bring that change about. So I completely agree in the fact that we do need to incorporate the science behind it all, because we all know these terms and we know that yes, if we take these measures, we can sort of bring about a change in terms of overall carbon footprint per capita. But it helps to have a number, to put a number to that, and to actually show that impact that's happening vis-a-vis each different point. So yes, and in terms of schools, I agree that auditing, of course, is a big factor. Is a good point to mention, of course, that whether it's to do with water, whether it's to do with energy consumption in schools, many different things in the school itself, to understand what is the current footprint of the school and how can that be reduced through different measures. And then looking at collaborating on various projects with various experts, scientists, and different people who work across these different issues in a collaborative manner to sort of bring that change about.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Ashim. We definitely need, like some guidance in terms of the measurements and the audits. Yeah, that has to be there. And now moving on to Amy. Amy, ma'am, if you can just throw some light about your understanding and the amount of work experience that you have, how do you think that it would actually make a change, bring about a positive change in the schools, and how the measurements can be play a key role in that particular process. So if you can
Okay.
just throw some light.
Well, first of all, thank you. It's good to see some of you again. I haven't seen you in a while, and I've been wondering how things are going there in India with this big heat wave that you all have been having. I've been thinking about you a lot. Hopefully, everyone is safe. The Climate Action Project is something that we have integrated into our school. Particularly, it has different levels, different phases, and we've started it in the school about 5 years ago. And it started just as a 6-week project, basically starting out teaching the children what is climate change, what causes it, what are the effects, and what are the results. And it's something that, and I've been working with our school over these last few years, trying to get them to understand that it's something that needs to start with the preschool and go all the way up to high school, because our school is comprehensive, and it's not something that needs to be done in a few grades, a few weeks out of the year. It needs to be continual. And as an ambassador for Italy, I've been working with the Ministry of Education, unsuccessfully still, but over the years, to try and implement it, not just in our school, but in all the schools in Italy. Because if just one school does it, or even 10 or 20, it's not enough. It has to be part of the education curriculum in every school, every age. And they don't need to, you can't start with the carbon footprint. They have to understand what climate change is. So you have to do the whole 360. What is it? What causes it? What is my role? And what I do with the little ones, I teach in 2nd and 3rd grade, but as I'm the coordinator, I also coordinate in 1st and 4th and 5th, because up until this year, I've only had permission to do it in elementary school. Next year, we will carry on into middle school and high school and make it really the total vertical program. Now it's still going to be the 6-week program. And with the little ones, we start in the spring semester because they don't have the vocabulary or the understanding of the process. It takes time to build that up. But my goal is to eventually have it year round, all the way from top to bottom. And so particularly with my little ones in 2nd and 3rd grade elementary, so we're talking 7, 8, 9-year-olds, after we do the 6-week, I personally in my classroom don't stop at the 6 weeks, and we continue on. And after they understand what climate change is and what causes it, then the next step for us is, and what is your role? What is your weight? What are you doing to cause it? And what are you doing to compensate? And so what we do is, because they need that visual, the hands-on, and so they take their shoes and socks off, they make their footprint, they trace their foot, and then we kind of brainstorm. Just to give you, I thought you wanted me to give actual details of the actual things that we do in the class. So this specifically on the carbon footprint, we break it down into things that they understand. How they come to school. Do they come by car? Do they Could they walk? Could they ride a bike? Could they, or do they go by bus? Or do they do one kid to school? How could, and we brainstorm about ways that they could reduce their carbon footprint by maybe sharing a ride with friends or walking if they're close enough. We talk about other things that they understand. In the lunchroom, we do a chart, sometimes a graph, sometimes a pie chart. How much food is wasted? How much do you waste as an individual, as a class, as a school? We've also, and I believe, Susan, this might have been one of our collaborations. I remember was it your school who suggested a rain collection, a barrel to collect the rainwater? I've been suggesting that for years. We haven't done it yet. We've been suggesting solar panels. We come up with great ideas, and little by little, the year we started this, we were still using single-use plastic water bottles in the lunchroom. And we're talking about how many students do we have at our school? I don't know, 1,000. And so already from 5 years, we've switched from the single-use plastic water bottles to pitchers. We use biodegradable silverware. Every student, no one is allowed single-use plastic in our school. Everyone has a reusable. So just things like this, to explain to them visually and with hands-on, and experiment and do it themselves so that they understand how they can make a difference. We make posters and put up signs in the bathroom: turn off the water when you are washing your hands, get your soap, turn off the water. Little things like this that they come up with on their own, like to not waste water, not waste food. They actually calculate. We don't have the methods, as Lydia was saying, we don't have the means to do the scientific calculations of, well, the school uses this much electricity, and yes, there are people in the business office who could do that, but as far as the students, maybe in the future, the high school students, this could be a science project for them to actually collect the data, analyze, and produce. The older students, in the middle school, my hope next year, there's actually an app on this climate action project that we use that can track. Oh, the other thing we did this year in third grade, my third graders made a petition. They understood that eating a lot of meat leaves a big carbon footprint for the water consumption, for raising the animals. And so we made a petition to the school to actually make a meatless Monday. This was another idea that I got from the Climate Action Project on the webinar at the final. So, and if I'm taking too much time, please tell me if I need to stop.
No, that's okay. I think in the second segment also, there will be a huge scope for you to get into the
Okay.
nitty-gritties and explain the things. Yeah. So, so like, if you can tell us in a nutshell, like how, what carbon footprint actually means to, these elementary students, and how school can implement them. So I think
Okay.
that would be great.
I just tried to explain to them that their carbon footprint is what they leave or take away from Earth. Their contribution to pollution, to waste, just all of this kind of together, that we need to leave Earth not the same that we found it, but better, because we found it in a bad condition. We found it sick. And so that it's their responsibility to make it better, because the carbon footprint, everything we do to use fossil fuels or any kind of water or food, electricity, causes our footprint, and it increases our footprint. And so basically,
Yeah,
in-
I really like your idea that you are promoting in a way that they need to leave, they need to create a better, version of the planet by contributing towards sustainability and the actions which can be aligned
Right.
accordingly.
Because
So yes,
obviously with 6, 7, 8, 9-year-olds, you can't, the sustainable approach doesn't, you have to
they need to
explain
get it.
obviously
Yeah.
in their vocabulary level Earth is sick.
Definitely.
We need to make it healthy again. We need to, so you have to, you know, just by putting it in something that they can understand. So.
Yeah, definitely. That's I think the major challenge with the students who are in the early years, because the kind of vocabulary that we get, we need to translate it into a version that they actually
Yes.
follow and understand, and how they can create a relationship with nature. That's the entire process which actually matters. Yes. Thank you so much, ma'am, for throwing this insight in. And now moving on to the second segment, wherein we have very specific question for each panelist. So I'll start with Susan, ma'am. Susan, ma'am, I know that you are very excited about talking about the handprints and how do we reduce carbon footprint, and you have your own ways of doing so. So if you can just throw some light on how we can do that by increasing handprint. So over to you. The floor is yours.
Okay, let me begin by sharing my screen.
Sure, ma'am.
Okay, there you go. Okay, to begin with, we've already spoken about the carbon footprint, so I will not really get on to that. I'm having a problem here. Yeah, so let me explain to you what is a handprint. So even Amy just now explained about how a carbon footprint is what we cause to the earth, whereas a handprint is what we do, is a measure of human contribution to sustainability, a measure of, if you look at carbon footprint as a measure of unsustainable action, we look at handprint as a measure of sustainable action, right? So, so basically a footprint addresses negative impact. It can never be reduced to zero. And whereas in a handprint, we give back to the planet, and there is no limit to the good that you can do, and it always addresses positive impacts. I think Amy gave a whole lot of examples, and that climate action project, which we were also a part of a couple of years ago, did a lot of collaborative work where we learned from each other as well, especially in these lower classes, elementary years. So this shows you a pictorially how for children, this is very easy to identify versus a handprint versus a footprint. All your crosses show your footprint, which is basically non-renewable energy, private cars, not managing your waste properly. And all the tick marks are your handprints, planting more trees, using the public transport, bicycling, segregating your waste. These are all simple things that can be done in school itself, and children also will be able to identify these. So increasing the handprint through outdoor classroom activities in school, something like a nature hike where the children just go plogging and bring up things. And at the same time, there is a little bit of English new vocabulary being learned. At the same time, they learn to segregate. Now, to my right, you have learning to compost using what we had a pig called as the roly-poly, where the children would pick up all the biodegradable dry leaves, etc., put it into that. And when they wanted to play, they would roll over it. So this passive learning, and slowly they learn sustainable happens. This is another fun thing that is done. Again, the Climate Action Project brought this about, where we had a bin where all these single-use plastics we said no to. But in public spaces, when you have these things, then the gathering becomes easy and children motivate as well. Connect with nature, forming a bond, listening to the rhythm of the leaves, making these children hug the trees, listen early in the morning. We have yoga, meditation. Listen, I think Ashim will talk a little about forest bathing when he'll talk a little more about that, connect with nature. But these are things that little ones can do as well, hugging the trees. You know, we have this festival called Rakhi, during which a brother and a sister bond is kind of forged. So we did that with the trees. Little children would tie a little thread around it, forging a bond with that tree, and then looking after that particular tree and nurturing it. Then planting small plants, etc. Making seed balls was something, again, children love to play with dirt, so putting the soil, simple herbs kind of thing, basil, coriander, those kind of things. And and they give it away as gifts as well when people come. So these are put it into small bags. Then they made little potpourri bags with dry rose petals and marigolds into small muslin cloths. Now, these are all increasing your handprints. Zero waste lunch boxes once a week. Again, part of the green policy of the school. So children slowly learn passively what is biodegradable, what is non-biodegradable, what is yes to the earth and what is not to the earth. Making of a DIY worm tower, we add a fun aspect to it by making them paint over it. So there is integration of art along with environmental studies, so to say, and children love doing these kind of things. The 3 R's is something that is put up everywhere in all schools, very, very common, but we need to move from a 3R, put up these kind of posters. Children can easily relate to them. We need to move into a 6 R's. These are things that you have on campus using paper, reduce the use of paper, but whenever you have flyers, etc., put them in a bin in a place where children can take out and scribble on them on good on one side. Then you have these mesh composters where all the dry leaves on campus, etc., are put into that for making compost. Using these shells, biodegradable shells, planters. Earlier when guests came, we gave them planters with plants. Now, these are good ideas by which you can do that. Vertical, using the PET bottles as for vertical gardening. So I think I leave the floor to the others to discuss as well. So I've given a few ideas, and I'm sure if all of us, we will have enough handprints to heal the earth if we can reduce. We need just small teaspoons of change that we need to bring about in children. And that as they grow older, those small, they will have a trickling effect. And if it is ingrained right in the early years, it will fructify and we will be able to nurture our earth. Remember, we only have one earth and we don't have a planet B. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Amazing examples that you have just showcased. I'm pretty sure that it will actually, kind of stir a lot of confidence and excitement amongst the schools and educators in how they can carry forward such activities and actually try to, teach children about what is exactly being planet friendly. So now moving on to the next question, Amy ma'am, we want you back again. So my question is exactly on those lines that you were trying to explain. We want you to explain it a bit more. So just to align it, like how do we actually integrate ESD with respect to carbon footprint and in such a format that elementary education also gets easily aligned, especially like we were talking about the children who are in the elementary years, keeping in mind their behavior and their level of understanding. So if you can just throw some more light on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, most of the work we do is project based because that's how they learn best, hands-on, creating, active. And one of the main things that we try and teach them is not just like all of those things that Susan explained, from everything from their snack, the snack that they bring. We managed this year to get the majority of students to stop buying those juice boxes with the just little plastic straws. And they're very conscientious. And one of the biggest parts, the integral part of the project is for these kids to go back home and talk to mom and dad brothers and sisters, to share with friends, not just at school, not just at home, but everywhere. When they travel, to start learning how to handle themselves. A lot of them have started taking their water bottles when they travel, when they go to the beach, instead of, so it's about changing the mindset, really, but not just as an individual, the community, to share it with your family, your friends, and in school, you know, as I said, years ago, we had the single-use plastic bottle. Now everybody has their own, and we have the reusable pitchers, and also the bins. We have recycling bins everywhere, but we still need to do better because they're not very well coordinated. We bought all new bins, but some places the compost is red, and some places it's green, and some places the plastic is blue, and other places it's yellow. We need to, one of our goals for next year is to get them all color coded. They all have posters and signs, but I think it helps also to get to to simplify it, to make it for the little ones. But like you said, they acquire the knowledge through practice. So the more they do it and the easier it is, the better and quicker they learn. And then also part of the program I'd like to increase next year is bringing families in. Have maybe just start with this class reps, the room representative, have them come to a meeting where we say, look, this is what we do at school, this is what we'd like to see happen at home. Somehow to involve the parents more, to get it into the community more. These kind of things, but basically it's project based, it's group based, because you've got your the ones whose level of English is much higher, and they help balance out. Next year I'd also like to have more vertical interaction, elementary with high school, middle school with, you know, just across, because older ones can learn from the little ones, and little ones can learn from the older ones. So we also, as I said about the cafeteria and the waste, the project that we're working on with waste, we're going to next year integrate it at the middle school level, and they are actually going to, instead of just looking at what each individual student does, they're going to have an actual competition and between classes of who has the least waste. And they're going to implement, like, with a little scale to measure. So each student, after for a certain amount of time, say 10 days, 2 weeks, every day you measure, and then the class with the least, we haven't come up with the exact outline of the whole project, but perhaps the class who wins with the least waste will get a picnic day. They'll get to have a picnic outside. But and also part of the way that we teach, and I like, Susan, I like the idea. I have to say I haven't seen or used or heard of the handprint showing the positive impact. I like that idea. That's something I want to use definitely next year. But with Lydia and how she does from the preschoolers, teaches them the importance of growing our own food. And we have a garden that she does with her projects, but I would love to see more in the school, to have more. But anyway, so there's lots of work to be done.
Yeah, I can definitely make that out, but I really like the idea wherein, you know, you try to blend the formal education wherein parents also come into play, and they actually, you know, uh, they are key part, key like core elements of the education when
Yes.
parents teacher meetings happen. On
And at
top
the end
of
of the
that,
day, let's
yeah,
be realistic. Who buys their snacks? Who buys
exactly.
their clothes and things? We also try and teach the importance of when you instead of throwing out a pair of jeans because it doesn't fit anymore, give it to a little cousin or a sister, or the Caritas,
Yeah,
Lost,
Amy, I think we lost you.
lost.
Yeah. So let's wait for a couple of seconds and then move on to the next speaker. Yeah, I think she lost the connection. So Okay. So if is yeah, if Ashim, yeah, Ashim is here. So Ashim, like you have been here throughout the interactions and all, and we do get it that the major contributors to carbon footprints are food, transportation, household energy consumption. In fact, there is more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere than, like the amount of oxygen that we should be breathing. But then we are again spoiling the entire scenario here, and the global warming is, on the other hand, giving us a very tight threat. So Ashim, if you would just, we definitely know under these situations and conditions, um, forest bathing and exposure to the natural environment plays an important role. So we would like to hear from you, since you have been in this domain and working in this domain for a long time. Tell us from your experience as an educator, what kind of activities trigger excitement for learning more about sustainability in the students, while throwing some light on the impact of forest bathing and the excursions that add a lot of value to.
Thank you so much, Smriti, for that question. I do have a very short presentation that I've prepared. It's about 7 slides, but it's largely just pictures, and it's more about my experience on the ground and some success stories that I'd like to share today with everyone. A lot of it is to do also with my past work with an organization called Swecha that I was working with for the last 6 years, which is how I interacted with Susan Mam over the years and with the Foundation School and the Indian School in Delhi. So I'm just going to share my screen very quickly. Uh, it's visible to everyone now. Just a
Yeah.
second. Yeah. And I'm going to, okay. Okay. Can you all see? I think it's loading on my end. So,
It's loading.
It's
okay.
loading. Yeah. Now it's visible.
Yeah. So I've titled it "Working with and for Nature Can Be Fun" because that's something I've seen in schools over the years. Is that environmental education in general, environmental sciences is not something as a subject. Of course, it exists in the curriculum. It is spoken about a lot more in the last few years because all of these issues, are right on our faces now. As you look at a city like Delhi, it's one of the most polluted cities in the world. Our water is contaminated, our air is contaminated. So we don't have much of a choice than to not just talk about these things, but also take some concrete action. And it starts from a community level, from a school level, to bring that collective action in. So my idea of this conversation, of to answer your question, is also to how you can actually make or curate a series of activities or make things interesting for young learners and make environment as a concept very cool and interesting and fun for participants. So the methodology that we use largely at the organization that I worked with, and also independently that I'm doing now in terms of an approach, is looking at, of course, engaging directly with the soil, working hands-on and conducting activities hands-on rather than just in the classroom. In the classroom as well, there are large parts of it are discussion based, teamwork building. A lot of it is about film screenings. A lot of visual aspects are included within the classroom as well to get students more encouraged and motivated towards these issues. The other is experiential learning, which is looking at how moving out of the classroom and going on excursions, going on walks, going on visits, something that Susan Ma'am had also already shown. Whether it's a forest walk or it's forest bathing or it's, going and seeing the river in your city and understanding, where your water is coming from, which essentially leads to stepping out of your comfort zone, stepping out of your air conditioned room, stepping out of your classroom, stepping out of something that's very familiar for you and going to unfamiliar territory, getting acquainted with that space and taking something back so that you realize what the issues are on the ground and how you can make that change. And of course, peer-to-peer learning and mentorship, where you build a sort of network in the school itself where different grades are interacting with each other, learning from each other, and working towards a variety of different issues. Um, some of the activities that I feel trigger excitement among young learners that I've seen over the years. One is, of course, working directly with the soil and building something together, whether it's a forest or a garden or backyard. Ecological excursions, going on walks, going on trips that are environment related. Audits and surveying, which is something we spoke about earlier, specific to carbon footprint mapping in your schools. Collecting that data and sharing that data as well with colleagues, with people in the school or people outside your school, your families, your communities around you. growing your own food, but making that very interesting. So on the right, you can see this picture. This is a garden that I developed very recently as part of a project I'm working on. So I've used all kinds of waste material with students that I've collected, from plastic drums, storage containers to cycle wheel rims and old discarded vegetable crates. And we've gone and, used different kinds of soilless material together to actually grow and create an edible garden that's also upcycled and repurposed in nature. And what's interesting about this garden and many gardens that I've done in the past as well is that after the process has been set up, we've seen kids maintain this space themselves, nurture and grow the space, use the produce for their own kitchen in their homes. And at the same time, every time I go, I see a new planter that's been added to these gardens. So whether it's a random plastic bottle that they found, or it's a shoe that was torn that they've used, so they bring in, they've learned not just the growing aspect or the harvesting aspect, they've also learned a new skill in the form of channeling your inner creativity and upcycling, and what we call kabad se jugad in Hindi. So kabad in the sense waste, jugad in the sense you're utilizing it in the best possible manner, in the most creative manner. So simply putting waste to a different purpose altogether rather than sending it to a landfill. This picture here is from a walk I did, in fact, yesterday in the morning with a group of students I've worked with in the past as well in the forest. And I'll speak a little bit, of course, about forest bathing as a concept. These are just three quick examples I'm going to show. The first one is building an urban forest. This is something I had the opportunity to do, and it's a very close project for me. And when I was working with Swechha, I had the opportunity to work for 5 years almost on a forest building and seeing the forest grow with a group of students from the Indian school and the foundation school. And Susan ma'am and I have had multiple interactions around this space, and trying to do more activities. We have worm towers in the space as well, and there are different kinds of fruit trees that are growing. And what's most interesting again is that the students themselves, after planting, it's not just a one-off activity. They've come back to the space every 3-4 months. They've collected harvest from there. They've organized their own walks there. They've gone and seen how the trees have grown, and there's a sense of ownership that builds because they've planted that sapling that's 2 feet or 3 feet, and they've seen it become 10 feet, 12 feet, 15 feet. So it's growing with them as they progress in school. And the forest, of course, belongs to them, and all the produce is theirs, and they get to share it with themselves as well as with families and relatives and people in their community. This is again an example of the garden I just showed you across stages. So this is stage one, where we just assembled everything together in the small patch that got a little bit of sunlight. Then again, working with the soil, interacting with different forms of medium, whether it's coco peat or vermicompost. Getting your hands dirty is something I'm all for, and engaging with things like earthworms, which kids, when they first start working with them, they hate it and they're very very scared, and I show them the earthworms and they move away instantly. But 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, they come and they show me these earthworms and they say, okay, they've multiplied in this container. So you see how that process automatically is happening because they're engaging with it on a regular basis. And now, I mean, they're actually harvesting bitter gourd, they're harvesting brinjal, they're harvesting spinach, mint, all kinds of things from this garden. It's only about a month and a half old. So to me personally, of course, it gives me a lot of satisfaction, but more importantly, it is the fact that it's sustained in the long run. And the ones who have built it are the ones who are nurturing it and taking it forward and are passing that skill on. This is an ecological excursion. We used to do these Yamuna walks where we take students to see the river and how it changes in the city, and how it's one of the most polluted rivers in our city, and most of the pollution comes from Delhi itself. So students see that, and some of them have actually gone back, and over time they've gone and built an action project in their school where they've demonstrated a sewage treatment plant and how it works, and how you can actually start by recycling gray water, how you can convert gray water and use it, filter it through different processes, use it in for watering your plants, or use it in your homes, use it in different in your life. So they've used different boxes that are again old boxes, put them together, put different pipes together, collected a lot of waste items and built these chambers. So it's informative, it's educative, it's also something that's fun building as a model, and it showcases a process that most people may not necessarily be aware about. uh, Forest bathing as a concept is something that I was introduced to in 2019. It's based on a Japanese technique called Shinrin Yoku, which essentially means bathing in the forest. And it was, introduced in the 1980s in Japan as a way to tackle the tech boom burnout. A lot of people were going through depression and anxiety. So it basically was a way of allowing citizens to reconnect with nature and forests, bring them back to nature, bring them back to the forests. And at the same time, the purpose is twofold. So on one hand, it is, of course, to get them to these forests, but on the other hand, it also is to while you're bringing them there and making them connect with the forest in a different way, you're also in a way encouraging them to be a part of the process of conservation and restoration of these forests. The entire process is also very sensory in nature. So if you see here these pictures, the kind of activities I lead with them are a lot to do with different senses, whether it's the sense of smell or it's the sense of touch, feeling the trees, hugging trees, meditating, sounds around you, different kinds of sounds, sound of birds, sound of the grass, smell of the grass, collecting different objects from the forest and taking those back with you as well. It's a lot to do with senses. And very interestingly, I've conducted about 10 to 15 of these walks in the last year or so. And in each of these walks, I have a percentage of about 80% of participants who come in and who've never been to this forest before, who have in their own city have never seen this forest. It's the first time they're coming. But they've messaged me after that telling me that, thanks to your walk, I now go on a weekly basis to the forest. I try and do forest bathing myself, or I try and interact with nature or with the trees or with the space in some way or the other. So thank you very much. I had no idea that Delhi had 700 acres of forest space like this that I could just visit on a weekend on my own. So in a way, that's the second purpose of the entire activity, where you're bringing people to these spaces, but you're also engaging them and in a way trying to add more people to your cause and getting more people to work towards sustainable long-term action and preserving these spaces. So yeah, that about sums up what I wanted to say in terms of different activities and approaches that we've been using, that I've been learning and using over the years. And thank you so much. I look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you so much, Ashim. Amazing, amazing, insightful, and a lot of things, a lot of adjectives. Okay, so I do get it, like, what actually creates excitement in students in learning. So, uh, especially when you allow them to get dirty, to get their hands dirty in soil and jump in the mud and actually connect with nature. So, as long as they're doing that, I think the dirt and for everything else, we do have detergents, soaps, and a lot of things to, yeah, definitely take care of them. So that's amazing, actually, the kind of work that you have been doing, and I'm pretty sure that uh, this is going to add a lot of value, in not just in terms of the early childhood year education, but also in terms of the education that goes beyond above, in the vertically, that way. Yeah, definitely. So now moving on to our next speaker. So I would like to invite Lydia Tavani to tell us and share her perspective on why learning in natural environment is necessary and effective. We do have Ashim's perspective and how he has carried forward such kind of initiatives, but we want to know, how do we actually go about it when it comes to natural environment and the effectiveness of learning in natural environment. Over to you.
Yes, thank you. Well, I can answer telling you about my experience with children in nature. And I'd like to talk especially about the link between school and nature. I mean, how we can learn in nature, and above all, why we should do it, what kind of experience, what kind of opportunities we will find there, educational opportunities and learning opportunities, what we are going to gain into the nature. So I prepare a presentation, so give me 1 minute to share it. I can anticipate that it will be an interactive presentation. So maybe we can have some fun together, okay?
That's so, great. Yeah.
That's okay?
Yeah, it's visible now. Yeah.
Okay, but seriously, I chose this kind of format, I mean, interactive, because the first thing that I learn in nature is that we are not alone. We are part of a big system that we call ecosystem. So for me, it's impossible to talk about the nature, about learning, without focusing on our relationship with nature. So relationship, it will be the core of my speech in this presentation. But something, I don't know if we can see the screen.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Okay, so here we have a little video. It's a short video, just a few seconds, and I left the original sound, so maybe you can hear some Italian languages. And I have a game for you. So enjoy the video. I told it was an interactive presentation, so enjoy the video, but pay attention at the end of the video because you will find a secret. So are you ready?
Yeah, I guess we all are.
Is it?
Yes. Did you find something at the end of the video? On the caterpillar? Watch again. Watch the caterpillar. There is something on it.
Making its cocoon.
Ah,
Yes, yes. Now,
Making its cocoon, is
yeah. Is it a water droplet? I think.
yes, there is a raindrop on it. It's amazing. How do you feel? Are you excited? This,
Yeah, it's. I think Lydia. Yeah, I think we lost her again.
Can you hear?
Yeah, I can hear you. I would suggest. Yeah, Lydia, can you hear us? Are we audible? Yeah, I think you're back now.
They are back.
Yeah,
okay.
please carry on. Yeah.
Sorry, I think that we have a problem with connection Wi-Fi.
Or if you want, you can switch off the video so you can save on the bandwidth.
Oh, okay. Maybe yes. I'll try again.
And gone again.
Okay, maybe I don't do the presentation. I try to go on anyway. Excited. So that's the best opportunities that we have learning in outdoor spaces, because when you learn, you are excited, so you feel alive. So you get in touch with the nature, but at the same time you get in touch with yourself. That is a very important thing while we are in. So there, looking at the when the children just observe many questions. So let me give you some examples. So here you can see some that
There's no network.
doesn't work here.
Lydia, your connection is quite feeble. It's I think I think she froze again.
Photo on top on the left.
Yeah, Lydia and Amy, can you? I think Lydia is here. Okay. Yeah, I think you're back. So if you can reshare your presentation and also unmute yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Please.
so sorry. Yes, I don't think the presentation works. Let's try, maybe. Okay. No, qui.
I think they're going.
No, ma non l'ho condiviso. Non l'ho condiviso ancora.
Mm.
Non l'avevo ancora, come l'avevo fatto apposta, non regge proprio la connessione.
Forse proviamo ad andare qui. Can you hear? Oh no, it's
Yeah, we can hear you, but it's just
I try to go on without the presentation, okay?
Oh, okay, fine.
Okay. I was saying that there were some photos. Children learn. The important thing to say is that the children can learn about the nature, but just not. For example, there is a plant, okay, and the caterpillar were eating all the leaves. The little girl says. Now how can the plant can live without its leaves? And that's very important questions, because she was learning about the plant, but not just the plant, but the plant within the environment, in its habitat. So that's the connection, okay? That's important. And we also practice some mathematics, and we played with the alphabet, because we were counting all the feet of the caterpillar, and it was very, very hard, because they walk very very quickly. And there were another photos, the caterpillar, they were drawing an A. I don't know if you have seen. So we played with alphabet. That's what I call the wonder of the nature. Okay, it's very amazing when we go in nature. It's a simply wonder. It's amazing. And the ingredients of this wonder, the wonder of the nature, is that we just stop. We have just stopped. We observe, and we get excited, and we think. So that is how we can learn into the nature. But the main question is, what are the consequences of all of this? Okay, and the consequence is that the children get always more and more awareness about what is around them. And when they get awareness, they start to think, to do something to take care of the environment, of all the animals, for example. I had a picture with a little boy that made a coffee corner for the birds for the winter days. Because we were in winter time, and he said, "Oh, now with all this windy, with all this rain, how can the bird can fly and looking for their food? I want to help them." So he made a coffee bar. It was incredible. So using all the natural materials, these start to make all the stuff that usually children make. Huh? And for example, in Christmas time, we made all the decoration for our school, the class, and in our school. Also, Amy did using natural materials. And children about 3 years old, the children of 3 years old, she said me, "Oh, we don't need plastic to have a good Christmas decoration. We can do it with the natural materials." Say yes, we don't need plastic. And another boy, when we came back after Christmas time, he told me, "I took apart my Christmas decoration and I threw away in the garden because it was all natural." And he said, important thing that he said, it was the same class, 3 years old. "Lydia, zero waste." I said, yes. So that's a little thing, but at 3 years old, that's very important. So I think that the key is something that already my colleagues, everybody said before. It's not important just to go out into the nature. The important is to be into the nature. So to get in touch with the nature, to reconnect with the nature, because we can talk about climate change and all the problems that we have together, but how we can do it without talking about our relationship with the nature? I mean, if you usually when you take care of someone, it's supposed that you love it. It's supposed that you have a relationship with it. So usually the stronger your relationship is, the stronger your love is, and the stronger your desire to take care of it will be. So that's the key, being into the nature, reconnect to the nature. That's my consideration. Thank you. I'm sorry for all the problems.
No, that's absolutely
Technology.
fine. But I
That's
think,
technology for you.
Yes.
yeah, so what I think the amazing idea and the amazing concept that you brought in forth is, uh, in addition to just being in the nature, it's important that we connect with nature. Oh my God.
This
Oh,
is our students made this leaves from the garden for a fan. It's very
hand fan, yeah.
natural fan. They made it. I said, "Oh, I need that."
Yeah, and it's really amazing to hear stories from you wherein a child speaks of zero waste, and that too from the one who is not that mature enough, is just like 3-4 years old, I guess.
Mhm.
So it's amazing to hear that the kind of impacts that such kind of initiatives
Yeah.
have on them.
Mhm.
That's actually that count that count a lot, and such initiatives are going to create a positive impact. So I'm really thankful to all of you that you could share your perspectives, ideas, and the kind of projects and experiments that you have shared with us. It was wonderful to have such an eye-opening session with you all. So as I reach the finish line of this webinar, I would like to remind everyone again, all the audiences present out there and who are listening to us, and everyone whosoever that you feel that you can share a word with about this, please do keep in mind that we don't have a planet B. It's high time that we geared up to save our planet. Hashtag only one Earth. That's what we have with us. And like while closing this session, I would like to thank ECDF for the initiative and the supporting partners, DN Acharya Foundation for Children and Women Welfare, Bounce, and IMTTA for making this webinar happen. But most importantly, I send all my good wishes and love for nature, and a lot of faith to all the panelists who have joined us today and who could share their journeys and experiences with us, so that we feel more motivated and more enthusiastic about contributing towards a greener planet. Thank you everyone. Thank you everyone, and have a nice day. Thank you so much. Stay
Thank you so
healthy and
much.
stay planet friendly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.